the seat tray is cured. I removed it off of the bike and did a preliminary trimming. It's not final. I just knocked off some of the high stuff, and as far as the little needles and bare spots, I just kind of cleaned them off. You can see it's sitting on here, it looks fairly good. Got decent gaps. So I wanted to really touch base on this. When I laid this up, I didn't really think about the edges curving under the subframe, which they did a little bit, not a lot, a little bit. So it made it for pretty tough to get it off. So I had to use a little bit of muscle to actually get it going. I had to use both hands and pulling on both sides, and started in the front, and then it started, once it got the lip over onto the subframe, it came off fairly simple. But keep that in mind when you do fiberglass work, that undercuts are a no-no. And if you go too far under, you won't get it off. So anything, you have to think about your part when you're making it, that when you lay it on there, it should be able to slide straight off, and then that requires minimal strength or muscle to get it off of there. But because of that slight undercut on both sides, it made it really tough. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to pull the seat off of here. It's still a little bit snug because I haven't gotten it fully trimmed, but it does come off much easier now. But I'm going to pull it off, and I'm going to show you some other pointers. First off, you might see that there's this brown material on here. I ended up changing brands of the brown packaging tape. Normally I use the Ace Hardware brand tape, and I ended up getting a little bit bigger roll, which was in 3M brand. The downfall was anywhere that there wasn't any of the blue masking tape on, the adhesive stayed on the metal parts. So the 3M adhesive came off. The plastic pulled off, but as you can see, it left the adhesive. So now I have to go through and acetone to get all of the adhesive off, which is the whole reason why I wanted to use blue tape, but I didn't cover everything, only the areas that the foam tape was going to be. That was no problem. As you can see, everything's gone. Same thing over here, nothing. But anywhere in the metal that I didn't put the blue tape on, the adhesive came off onto the left itself on the trays. All right, on the seat pan, as you can see, this was our original V. I removed the piece of plywood that was in here. Whenever I had glued the 1x4 to give it strength, I only 6-point tacked glued it with CA glue, and that held it in place so it wouldn't move. So I had to break that free and pull that out, and that allowed the plywood to be flexible, so I could put a rigid putty knife under here and pull it out, so you can see a little bit of the surface scarring to try to get that out. It was a little bit of a pain, but not terrible. The plywood is super flexible, and then it popped right out. And the reason why is because this is an undercut. As you can see, the hole is smaller than down what it was at the bottom where the actual part sat. So it just required me to basically break it out of there. These, I only did the same thing. I trimmed off the sharp points, and I'll finish going through this and measure how far I want this to be down. So it'll probably only be about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in height, because I don't need any more than that. And I plan on having weld tabs inside here to zip tie the wiring harness that's going to run through here. So I don't want those being these interfering with the wiring harness that would be zip tied along the base of it. So we will stop the video, and in the interim I will go ahead and final trace out how I want this to be done as far as cutout, which will still be somewhat basic because I'll think over this over the next couple of days on if I want to keep this the full height and run my foam rubber and slope it up here, or just be able to run it straight so I could cut this off, because there's already a back plate here. I'm undecided on that, so I'll think that over, but in the interim I can actually get it where the fitment, where it's not so difficult to slide on and off because of the undercut that's in the actual fiberglass itself. So when we come back, I will have this all trimmed, worked out, this all cleaned up over here, and we'll carry on with that. This is the subframe been taken off of the FJ, and I've already trimmed the seat pan to a rough shape at this point. And so what I wanted to do is go ahead and start getting it where it actually gets mounted to the bike once it will be completed. And I use these quick release hood latches. You can pick these up on eBay. They're fairly cheap and they're push button and they come apart. So what I want to do is I've already have the center line, and I'm going to go ahead and drill a pilot hole, and I will drill completely through into the seat tray, and then we'll mount this in place, and then I will touch base on what we're going to do with the seat tray on how to mount this pin. The quick release push button already installed. Basically what I did is I had the center line marked on the other side. I pre-drilled all the way through, and then I had marked the center line on here, and being that it's semi-transparent, I could see the drill bit touch, and then I lined it for a straight shot into the seat tray. So now what we have to do is I have to make a flange, and I'll most likely cut this on my lathe. If you don't have a lathe, you could use some type of flanged nut, and you can recess it in here. So basically what we need is something that this can screw in on the bottoms, from the bottom side in here, and then this will set in here like so, and then you can adjust the height and then the excess. So what I'll do is I'll machine a flange, and then I'll fiberglass over the top of it so it's locked into place, and then this bolt will pass through and until I can get the height set so that this locks in position like so, and then I can cut the excess bolt off, and then you have these lock nuts, or you can use one of the nuts to be a lock nut. So I'll have to machine a flange to put in here, tap it to the M6 thread that's on the pin, and then install it, cut the excess off, and then that section will be done. And then we'll work on making a hook that will sit up here in the front that will lock the front side of this into the actual subframe. So we'll touch base back once I got the flange mounted into position on the seat tray. All right, I wanted to touch base. This is the little adapter plate that I made. It's about 5/8 diameter on the inside, so I'll drill a hole through here to be 5/8 of an inch, and then this will set inside, leaving the top section here exposed from the top like that. And then I will I'll probably take a Dremel bit and actually scar the surface, maybe cut some notches, or I may just take and drill a couple holes in here. So that's basically when it gets glassed in here, if it gets tightened too much, that you don't spin this inside your glass, because if that happens, it's going to be a pain to keep it tight. So I will fix this where it won't be able to spin free once it's glassed in position. The part is glassed in. As you can see, I sanded around this general area, and then drilled the hole. It was really nice because it was kind of a press fit, and I cut some grooves in the base. I don't know if you can possibly see those through the fiberglass, but there was some grooves cut in there, along with the shaft portion that protruded into the hole. I actually cut some undercut lips in there, and then when I put the resin onto the button, I pressed it in there, so you can see there's a little bit of gush out on there. So that's bonded in there really well. It won't push out because it's just a thin. All I took was piece of some scrap material like so, and just patched it around there, and then applied a little bit of resin. So when this is all cured up, we'll come back. I'll have to drill that small portion that's covered up over there, and then rerun the tap back through there to make sure there's no glue. It doesn't look like there is, but I'll have to rerun that through there, and then we'll be ready to mount the pin for it, and then cut it down to size. It's in. The part has been in there. I got the threaded pin in there. I'll cut it off once everything is done. The rubber strips have been added because I usually do the upholstery last on the bike basically. So I'll make sure everything fits once it's in there. And then as you can see on the push buttons in and ready to go. So I like these quick releases. They're really nice. They're kind of inconspicuous, and this will be exposed on the bottom side, so no key to be able to open your seat. So that is that. So the next thing I have to do is work on the forward pin that the seat will slide under and lock the front section into the frame, so it keeps the seat from wanting to be able to come off. For the most part, that's it. Quick releases in on the seat tray, and we just got to do the front, and then we'll move on to some other steps.